the bowl of mixed nuts that unraveled a mystery. One chilly morning in late February 1982, a guy named Sam Dash, 42 years old and headmaster of an elementary school in Memphis, was standing in his office, arms crossed, frowning at an empty bowl on his desk. Now, this wasn't just any bowl. It was his precious bowl of mixed nuts. The man loved snacking while he worked on admin stuff. And just the night before, he'd filled that thing to the brim. So where the heck did they go? Sam's office was inside this enormous United Methodist church that housed more than just a school. It had everything: offices, a full gym, a kitchen, even laundry facilities. This place was practically a self-contained city. Annoyed, Sam stormed out of his office and headed to the church kitchen to restock. But when he got there, he was in for another surprise. The entire container of mixed nuts, gone. And not just that, other snacks had vanished too. It was like someone had raided the pantry. He turned to the church cook, who was chopping vegetables, and asked if there had been some kind of event the night before. The cook just shook his head and said, "Man, I'm glad someone else noticed. Food's been disappearing for a month. At first it was just little things, snacks here and there, but lately full-on meals had started going missing. The cook even padlocked the fridge at night. Just last night he'd put a whole ham in there, locked it up, and now it was gone. Poof, like it never existed." Sam talked to church administrators. They didn't have answers either, but agreed to change the locks. For a couple of days, things quieted down. No food theft. Nuts stayed in the bowl. Maybe the lock did the trick. But then, out of nowhere, the cook called Sam back into the kitchen. The fridge? Raided again. And someone had started messing with the cook's personal stuff, his shoes, his apron. Nothing stolen, just moved. Like someone was deliberately toying with him. And it didn't make sense. There was no satisfaction in pranking if no one was watching the reaction, right? Sam agreed to bring it up with the higher-ups again. But when he got back to his office, there was something new on his desk. A paper towel. Not one he left there either. Scrawled across it in chaotic handwriting was a note, and it mentioned the recent murder of a 15-year-old girl named Leslie Gaudis. That case was all over the news. She had supposedly been abducted and murdered in Memphis. But this note suggested otherwise. It claimed there was something in the attic of the church that would change the way people understood her case. Sam was shaken. Was this some sick joke? Had the kids from the school escalated their pranks? Still, as absurd as it seemed, he couldn't ignore it. He called the police. They searched the attic, searched the whole church, found nothing. They chalked it up to a prank and told Sam to keep them posted if anything else happened. And things did keep happening. More food went missing. More notes appeared, not just on Sam's desk, but on desks throughout the church. Most people still brushed it off. But Sam couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on, especially after his young son opened a Bible during Sunday service and found a note tucked inside. It referenced Leslie Gaudis again. That was it for Sam. This wasn't just annoying anymore, it was getting dark. On March 17th, Sam went to the church maintenance crew and said, "We're doing a stakeout." That night, he and the crew hid out in strategic spots in the church, waiting. Hours passed. Nothing. Most of the crew was bored out of their minds. Then one of them, needing to stretch his legs, started walking the halls. As he neared the nursery, he heard something behind him. He turned around. Light was on in the kitchen. He rushed toward it and stopped in his tracks. There, standing in the kitchen, was Leslie Gaudis. Alive. She spotted him and bolted straight into his arms, desperate to escape the man who had kept her hidden for nearly 4 months. 42-year-old Ernest Stubblefield. Ernest tried to run, but he was eventually caught. Turns out, Leslie really had been kidnapped from her room. But she wasn't murdered. She had been held captive in a hidden crawlspace in the church attic. Ernest had kept her there under constant watch, telling her he'd demand ransom. But it was all a lie. Leslie, brave beyond belief, had tried to send signals. By stealing huge amounts of food, by moving things around in the kitchen, and by writing desperate notes on paper towels, hoping someone, anyone, would take them seriously. Most people thought it was a prank, except Sam. And thank God he didn't give up. Leslie survived. Ernest was sentenced to 20 years in prison. And Leslie? She went on to become a lawyer, dedicating her life to missing and exploited children.